Hey everybody out there in the YO universe, this is Survivor 2002 again. I very rarely ever do posts back to back. I might do what most people do and record stuff on the same day and then, edit and post at a later time when I have a lot of stuff to do. But this is kind of a special occasion, so even after doing the long special edition post I did earlier on today, I had to come back and say something about this subject. I just had my 48th birthday on Friday, and it's 2 years away from the big 5-0, so you start to think about, where you've been in your life, where you are, what direction you're going in, and nothing brings it on home with a lot of impact than the passing of someone who is close to you or someone who you feel like has been close to you. And for me, that took place last week with the passing of comedian Bernie Mac, and now today with the death of the legendary singer, songwriter, you name it, he did it, Isaac Hayes. It's kind of hard to express why I feel the way I do unless you've been there, and you might relate to this. I really identify with Bernie Mac because of his style of comedy. I mean, he was definitely 110% old school, and on his TV show, even though he was raising kids, in the 90s and beyond, he definitely talked about how his upbringing was, what it was like, with his parents and his neighborhood. And a lot of that was familiar to me. And that's what really, connected me to him the way he connected with a lot of people. In fact, I don't know a friend or a family member that hasn't seen at least a couple episodes, if not the whole series, when it ran on Fox. And I was not happy at all when the show just seemingly disappeared overnight without a word or a warning or a news flash or anything. It was just like here today, gone tomorrow. But my BFF has a pretty good theory about that. He says that Bernie was suffering from this crippling lung disease that he battled for so much of his life, and I don't think anybody realized how hard that was for him. And the pneumonia he came down with that finally took his life this past week, I think, complicated matters that much more. So there's a possibility that that's the reason why the show went off as soon and as suddenly as it did. But it was nice to have him around as long as he was here, and that sense of humor, that people my age can connect with definitely will be missed. As for Isaac, the news of his passing, at least for me, comes as no surprise. It's sad, but not a shock, because my partner and I have a favorite music hall here, the Birchmere in Alexandria, that we've frequented quite a bit. And of all the artists that we saw at the Birchmere, I think we saw Isaac probably the most out of a very short list. There are other people we saw 2 or 3 times, Hiroshima and Joe Sample, but I think Isaac we probably saw at least 4 or 5 times, and the man put on a hell of a show. I mean, when you bought a ticket to his show, it might be way above the usual price of the venue, but when he gave you your 2 hours worth, he gave you your 2 hours worth. And meeting him for me was like the completion of a circle. I mean, it was such an honor, but more than that, in a very funny way, I guess you could say he was like a surrogate dad to me, because his music had always been there. When I didn't feel like I was connected to my own father, one of the few ways I think that we did kind of connect remotely or spiritually, if not on a personal level, was the music that he listened to, because that's what I grew up with. Isaac Hayes, Barry White, Wes Montgomery, the Crusaders, a lot of jazz, a lot of R&B. And even if you know, my father wasn't aware that I was into that music, which I think he probably was in his later years. That was one way I felt connected to him, but more than that, I felt like I had a sort of a replacement even when he wasn't around, which was pretty often, you know, being an Air Force brat and that kind of thing. And him being away on, you know, TDY so much on whatever special assignments there were he couldn't talk about. But it was, you know, one of those once in a lifetime deals when I got to actually shake his hand, take a picture with him, get autographs of all the Isaac Hayes albums I own, which is damn near just about every one of them. But man, what can I say? I think I'll miss him more than maybe anybody else that's passed recently because of that presence that was always there, if not in music, then in movies and on television and just in all different ways, shapes, and forms. But cynics will probably laugh when they see some of these old school stars that charge these what seem to be like ridiculous prices to do concerts. And they always say, well, you know why they're charging that much, man, because they're not going to be around that much longer, and they're just trying to get that you know, that coin while they still can. Well, in this case, I think it literally is true. We are seeing the passage of a lot of great legends because, hey, they're getting up there. You know, Isaac was 65 when he passed. Bernie is a little more tragic because he was 50. He was 2 years older than me. I mean, I'll be 50 in 2010. And it's funny because I can remember back to a time in the Stone Ages, for most of you young folks out there, when we thought that 50 was decrepit, 50 was ancient. Man, it's like, you're 50, you're old. And nowadays, you know, you hear about somebody that dies when they're 50, and it's like, that was a little bit too young for somebody to go like that. And I hopefully will be lucky enough to make it to and past 50. But just reflecting on a lot of stuff. And I just want to say this. If you are a fan of someone who's still sticking around, still putting it out there for you, still trying to give you your money's worth when you go to see them in a venue, I would say go. Go to see this person. If you can meet them in person, for God's sakes, say thank you. If you can, shake their hand or at least walk up to them. Don't be shy, because you don't know when you'll get the opportunity to do that again. And I was very, very blessed and very lucky to be able to do that with Mr. Hayes. Not so lucky with Mr. Mack. Not that I could have ever have met him in person. But yeah, you see some of these legends out there that may not be as far up in the spotlight or in the firmament of the stars that we have now as, you know, they were back in their day. You know, don't count them out. And definitely, you know, don't overestimate your ability to go up to them and say hi, and I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done, because you may not get that second chance. But that's all I wanted to say, and God bless Bernie and God bless Isaac, and let's hope that they're in a better place.